December 28th Board of Directors Planning Meeting. Proof of notice, Director Killam.
Yes, Mr. President. The was posted in accordance with the Florida statutes.
Thank you. We're going to go right to new business. Item 3.1, ratify motion 8.9 from the 12-14 board meeting. Director Burns.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to ratify the addition of 8.9. Thank you, Mr. President. I move to ratify the addition of 8.9 to the December 14th, 2021 Board of Directors meeting.
I'll second that.
Rationale. This was an emergency item that had to be acted upon before January the 1st, 2022 concerning the golf membership dues.
Thank you. Any discussion on this motion? Barring any discussion? Yes.
I do have discussion.
Come up to the microphone.
We got somebody speaking. Hopefully you'll hear it, okay?
Okay.
Dot Woodruff, 235, unit number 235. You're voting on the golf? Isn't that what?
No, Doug. If you could, I know that you're going to want to speak tonight, and that's great.
Yeah.
But the time to do it is in our discussion right after, and so I'm glad to have you speak.
Okay.
But we'll let you know when that time. This is just to ratify what the motion we added last week.
The motion was,
It's a Florida statute that when you amend your agenda like we did last week, the next week you have to ratify that. It's just paperwork.
the motion was already defeated.
Yes, the motion was brought up, defeated, and we still have to ratify last meeting's agenda because we changed it.
So there's no discussion?
We're going to have discussion right after the meeting, and that's really the time to do it, because this isn't voting on what you want to talk about. This,
I'm voting about that.
you know what? It'll be just as easy, but here's the thing. We can't have everybody speak when we need to get through this agenda. I know what you want to do, and I know it seems right because we're talking about the motion that we carried last week, but it's really a totally different thing. But if you want to talk, just kind of make it as brief as you can.
I'll wait.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Dorothy. Okay, any discussion on this motion? If not, we'll vote to approve the ratification motion 8.9 from the 12-14 meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Nay.
That was Director Raymer. 1 nay, Director Raymer. Motion passes. 3.2, motion to approve new COVID restrictions. Director Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Board of Directors approve the following COVID restrictions covering the clubhouse, pools, golf course, and shuffleboard courts, effective immediately, and I'll read it. The following revised COVID restrictions are effective immediately. Clubhouse. If vaccinated, there are no individual restrictions. If not vaccinated, masks and social distances are highly recommended. Visitors are not allowed to attend functions in the clubhouse. Registered guests are allowed. Pools. Masks and social distancing are not required. Visitors are not allowed at the pools. Registered guests are allowed. Golf course. Masks and social distances are not required for everyday golf. For tournaments, scrambles, and special events, masks and social distancing are required prior to reaching the first tee area. 2 players are allowed in the same cart. Visitors are allowed on the golf course. Visitors are not allowed on the golf course. Registered guests are allowed. Shuffleboard courts. If vaccinated, there are no individual restrictions. If vaccinated, there are no individual restrictions. If not vaccinated, masks and social distancing are highly recommended.
Okay, that was second by Roxy. Discussion.
Mr. President,
This is Darrell Swain. Go ahead,
yes,
Darrell.
I would like to see us table this motion and again until January the 11th to give the COVID rate a chance to go down again. I have yesterday's COVID rate here, and the positivity rate was 7%. So it's above that 4% that we originally talked about. And I'm just afraid that, you know, we've done pretty good in this community. I'd hate to see us go backwards again.
Let me say this, table it's maybe the wrong terminology. If we agree with this, what we should do is just defeat the motion and then rewrite the motion to whatever you think, and then bring the motion up again in the next meeting in January. And if I understand what you're saying is, I think you told me before that the positivity rate is over 7% now?
7%, and originally we talked about 4% being the threshold. It just seems like COVID is going rampant again all over the place, and I'd hate to see us, for this to hit this community. And I really don't think that, you know, standing at the, are we going to have to post a guard at the door and say, oh, well, show me your vaccine card? Right. And I know I do know a fact, there's a few people in here that are not vaccinated, and right now they're not about to do it. And I don't think we can police it to that point.
My own personal opinion is it can't hurt us to basically put off the motion for a couple weeks because things are going a little crazy. Personally, I thought the CDC guideline was 6%, but we're over that now. Just 3 days ago, I think it was, when I checked Pinellas County, it was 2.8%, and now it's over 7%. So, yeah, Paul Frank.
Mr. President, can you, point of order, parliamentary procedure, can the president or the chairman voice an opinion upon the motion? Should they voice an opinion upon the motion and allow the directors to vote instead of making it known what your opinion is?
Yes, both by Robert's Rules of Orders and Florida statutes. The presiding officer can vote on items and discuss items. That's per Florida statutes and per Robert's Rules of Order.
Question? Darrell, are you saying that these restrictions are not enough or they're too strict? I don't know where you're coming from.
No, I'm saying that I mean, if you want to do it now, then you make everybody wear a mask. Don't point out, you know, don't try to point, well, you know, who's going to police it? Are you going to make everybody stand at the door and show you a vaccine card?
No, we've never said that. We've never said that.
No, it's not going to work.
And we will never do that. But I think we have to trust people. And I think the only thing I'd like to call attention to this, if we go to vote on this, when they say visitors are not allowed, but registered guests are. What that means, and all of you were told when you were registering or being interviewed to be a new resident of this park, we said anytime you have a guest, an overnight guest, you must register them in the office. You need to take a card up there or a phone call with the people's names, how long they're staying. Those are registered guests. Visitors are not registered guests, and we're saying that visitors cannot use our facilities. So make sure if you have guests who are here, make sure they are registered so that they can participate in these things.
So any other discussion? If not,
Just one, John. I think there's some situations happening in the park with some of our residents where they are secluding themselves because they've had COVID come visit. it's much more than what it was before, and there's many more people in the park for the Christmas spirit and that type of thing. Maybe we should be wearing the masks when we get together in meetings like this and this type of thing. It wouldn't hurt us. You know, it's not saying that we know that the new COVID is 2 days of runny nose and a little bit of feeling not so good, but you know, if we're leaving everybody to make their choice to put a mask on, not put their mask on, are we setting ourselves up for a problem over the next few weeks? And I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah,
Is that,
I mean, that way we're not picking on anybody. We're
Yeah.
just saying everybody wears a mask in the clubhouse, period.
yeah.
And you don't have to have somebody standing at the door, well, how come you're not wearing a mask? Or why was vaccinated? The other person, well, I paid for this clubhouse, so I don't care whether I'm going to wear a mask or not, I'm coming in.
Mr. President,
Yes, Mr. Ford.
I am totally against mandating the wearing of masks. I think we're grown-ups. We have an option to wear a mask, whether we're required to or not. I think it's up to the individual, period.
Okay.
But they're not going to be truthful. That's the whole point.
If they're not going to be truthful on this, they're not going to be truthful on anything they disagree with. So I think that's not a valid argument.
But we're not there to police things. We
We
can't.
are not a police organization. We are an association of adults.
I wish we all were. That's why we're in the mess we're in.
Is there any other discussion? Yeah, Lydia.
Just a question. With the governor taking his stance in Florida, are we allowed to require masks?
Yes. We don't have to.
There is, as far as I know, there is no mandate out there. It's strictly what we're saying here. You know, be honest if you've been vaccinated or not, you know, be honest about it. I don't think there's any mandate out there as far as I know right now.
No, but isn't he in a negative place about requiring people to wear masks? That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure we can require based on what the governor has stated.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but hasn't the governor always said there is no mandate that he's going to enforce a mandate to wear a mask? If I'm wrong, would somebody stand up and correct me?
He tried to say that the cruise lines couldn't mandate vaccine, and they have.
This is Director Killam. Go ahead, June.
Yes. Being a Canadian, I'm sorry to say this, and separate other people from some of the people that are masked all the time up here. If you see masked people, they may be Canadians, but they'll be fully vaccinated because we can't get on a plane or go across the border without being vaccinated. So if you're vaccinated and you're wearing a mask, will that mess everything up? Because it's saying if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. Were you wearing the mask in public places? Outside, you can't get in a store unless you wear them. So we kind of look at it differently. So it might mean that we are vaccinated and we all have proof. But in the States, and I know we're going to be in the States, but just to let you be aware of that.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, President. If I understood the motion correctly, it said that we highly recommend. We're not enforcing, we're not demanding it. We're just saying we highly recommend if you're not vaccinated or whatever that you wear a mask. We're not mandating, we're highly recommending.
That's correct. So if there's any other discussion, then we'll vote on this, and I vote is to approve the COVID restrictions as read off by Director Weaver. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
June, that was one nay, it was Director Swain. So the motion is passed. Now, just so we all know, that doesn't mean that if things get much worse, we can come out with a new COVID policy a month from now, whatever. But for now, that is been passed, and those are our COVID policies.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I know I didn't speak up quickly enough, but I believe there was a motion on the floor to table. And I think that takes precedence over any other motion.
Well, I don't think he made a formal motion to table it, and nobody seconded it.
Nobody did second it?
No.
Oh, okay. It died for lack of second then, all right.
And I thought he made it more of a suggestion, not I'm making a motion to table it.
Yeah, Mr. President, may I add just one comment? If you'll recall, early on when we had the COVID start appearing in our area, the board met on a regular basis and reviewed the requirements based upon the severity and the conditions we knew. And we can and did make adjustments to our recommendation, to our requirements based upon those discussions. So it's something that the board monitored on a monthly basis and discussed.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Motion 3.3, motion to approve maintenance building siding. Director Swain.
Mr. President, I move for the Board of Directors to approve the replacement of the vinyl siding, gutters, and the air conditioning box on the maintenance building. Payments to be made to citywide aluminum in 3 amounts not to exceed the total of $25,000. Funds to come from reserves.
Do we have a second? Still Burns seconded it. Rationale.
The old siding gutters have outlived their life and need replaced. The siding is faded and the gutters leak. They will install double 4.5-inch Dutch lap vinyl siding, 7-inch aluminum gutters with leak guard, and 6 3-inch by 4-inch downspouts. They will custom cap all door openings with white aluminum and hallway all debus. They will also make repairs on the shuffleboard court at no charge to us. Approval for this motion is recommended.
Discussion.
I have a question of our budget this year.
Yes. I'm not sure if it was this year or next year.
No. This is Anthony. It's been in the budget for the past 2 years. It's been in the reserve budget for the past 2 years.
Okay, good, thank you. Any other discussion?
Sonny Russell, 779. I'd like to know how many quotes we received on this project, who the other quotes from, and what were the costs, and how did they compare, and how did we decide to go with this company?
Yes, can you help us with that?
Yeah, I'll answer that. We asked 6 companies to bid. We only got 2 bids. This was the lowest one.
So are they identical bids, apples for apples?
Yeah. The scope of work was identical.
And why do you feel that 4 companies weren't willing to bid?
They just can't handle the work, and they don't have the staffing. That's the primary reason. They don't want to take on a job this big.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, then we'll proceed to vote on the motion to approve the maintenance building siding. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous. Item 3.4, approve assistance animal for lot number 85. Director Burns.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Board of Directors approve the formal request for accommodations of an assistance animal associated with Lot 85.
Do we have a second?
I need a second.
I'll second it.
Director Swain seconded it. Rationale.
The home in question is not in the pet section of Fairway Village. All requested documentation for the accommodations has been received and reviewed. Upon current state and federal law, the animal described here is not to be treated as a pet. Therefore, the FVRA restrictions do not apply and may not be considered in either the discussion or the decision. Approval of this motion is recommended, and if any of the directors printed it all out, I would appreciate it if you would discard it, shred it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I have a question. The name on that house is not the name of the people that are living there now. Is this a new owner or are they renters? Do you know? Anybody know?
I think I'm going to assume, which I should not do, that they're going to be renters, I think. And the animal in question is
The dog.
a dog. I will check and find out if they're owners or renters and let everybody know.
Thank you.
But that won't affect the outcome
No.
of this motion.
No, but it will. I'll just let you know whether they're renters or whether they're owners, new owners in the park.
Thank you.
I will check that out.
Itty bitty.
It's a
Little
Maltese.
dog.
Usually stays
All right. If there's no further discussion, all in favor of approving an assistance animal for lot number 85 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Item 3.5, Clubhouse Final Accounting, Director Raymer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to have the board accept finalization of our 15 long-term loan with Truist to be in the amount of $3,264,163. This will be done when the certificate of occupancy has been received and when the final payment to WJ Create for completed construction had been made in January.
Do we have a second for the motion?
I'll second it.
That was Director Ford?
Yes.
Thank you. Rationale?
The final payment has been submitted in the amount of $446,495.98. It will complete our construction agreement with WJ Create and will be issued on the receipt of our occupancy certificate from the City of Largo. The reduction of the planned amount of our long-term debt with Truist will lower our budgeted costs in 2022 and make a difference over the next 14 years. Any future costs, alterations, and changes to the clubhouse will be paid from the remaining amount in the reserve budget of approximately $142,000 and will be on the approval of the Board of Directors.
Any discussion on the motion?
Of all of the last time I heard, there was 6 or 7 items that had to be signed off before the, construction was finished. Has that all been taken care of, checked, signed off and things?
At this point in time, it isn't finalized, but where they have given us their final bill, we will cut the check in December so that we can do it at 2021. We will not release the check to them until we know that all the things have taken place.
Very good, thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the clubhouse final accounting as presented by Director Raymer, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. That's the last item. We will have shareholder discussion, and I certainly have one commitment. Motion for adjournment?
Make a motion.
Director Burns, second.
Second.
Roxy, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay, we'll move on to shareholder discussion, but I want to say a couple things here just to get these out of the way, and it might help things. WOW Knowledge email addresses will be gone by the end of the month or as soon as they turn you on. So anybody with still a WOW or a Knowledge email address, make sure you transfer that into another email. And because there's been a lot of discussion about it, two things. One, the dumpsters, there's signs all over them. You can't overload those dumpsters. Don't push them up over the rim. What can happen is that when the city picks them up, they'll just dump those back off into the driveway. So please don't overload the dumpsters. And I'm going to get to the shareholders first, and then we can talk about what we were just talking about with the dumpsters here as a solution, I think.
I just want to make one comment on the dumpsters. Like John said, do not fill them up over the top, and please don't put electronics in there, because when they picked that dumpster up today and took and delivered it, the park got fined $150 because it was over top and there was things in there that did not belong, and we got fined $150. So please follow the rules on those dumpsters and don't overload them, and don't put things in there that don't belong, because we get fined every time you do. Every time they pick it up and it's in there, we're going to get fined at least $150. So please don't put stuff in there that don't belong, and don't fill it up over the top. Thank you. That's all, John.
That's good. Tom?
Yes, Tom O'Brien, number 76. Have you heard anything about our noise problem? Because nobody's said anything to me.
Quite honestly, I missed the last construction meeting. Director Ford, do you have any input on that?
Yes, I do. Tom, we have instructed the contractor and the architect to look into additional treatment for the sound system, or for the sound problem with the HVAC system. They are contacting both the manufacturer through the contractor. Everything has to go through the proper procedure. And also they're considering any landscape additions that may help that situation. So it is being looked at.
Is it their problem, or is it Fairway Village's problem? I mean, who decided not to put them on the roof where Carrier recommended they put them?
The installation of the units is in accordance with the specifications. We had the contractor check to see if the noise, the decibel level of the units was in compliance with the specifications. It is. Any treatment that has to be done now will be the responsibility of the owner.
Of the owner?
Yes.
Okay. That's good to know. Well, we talked to the Carrier guy. He was here last Wednesday, a representative or repairman, and he said the left air handler motor isn't right, and they're going to replace either the motor or a part on it. He's going to order that, and that's going to be changed. That will help the startup noise on it, but it will not stop the constant noise that we hear. The reason they aren't on the roof is because money to reinforce the roof wasn't allocated, and they said put them in the back. Carrier said you shouldn't put them behind someone's house, it's going to be too loud. Yet they decided to put them there. The fence that is up there is useless for sound. That's what the Carrier gentleman says. Sound blankets may help, but that's only going to bring it down 5 decibels. That's not a whole lot. He said the best thing back there is a 12-foot cement or brick wall, and that's the best defense against the noise. So again, I'm up here because I still can't use my porch. I can't open my windows. The next thing I have here and kind of funny. They put sod down around 3 sides of the building, very nice sod, and they put beautiful sod in behind the fence. And then they put what I call cow pasture sod behind my house. Why?
That's not part of the contract responsibility. That is up to Spectrum and the association. That's outside the limits of the construction for the clubhouse.
So they paid for that.
It's a different contract involvement.
Well, anyway, it looks like hell. That's my point.
Also, I might remind you that we made a decision not to put those units on the roof from an appearance and aesthetic standpoint. If they would have been put on the roof, you probably would have had more noise than you're getting now.
And that's not true. That isn't what he said.
Who said?
The carrier AC repairman. He said they weren't
AC
put on there because they didn't want to spend the money to reinforce the roof.
That is entirely wrong.
Okay, well, if I see him again, I'll talk to him and see what he says.
Okay.
All right? And if anybody's interested in noise, come behind number 76 and listen to it. It's awful. I guess that's about it, maybe. Hold on. Oh, I just wanted to say something about this membership for the golf course and playing on December 15th. I believe you all had a chance to liven everyone's spirits around here and get them to play golf and maybe liven their spirits to, what's the word I'm looking for? Join the golf, get involved, and it failed. Whatever your reasons were, you made your decision. You also had a chance to make more money. Now the Canadians aren't paying any money until January 1st. So that money's gone by the wayside, and people aren't playing golf because I'm out there and there's nobody there. And you got to remember something. You as the board represent us, and it seems like you don't represent us sometimes. You're making decisions that don't make any sense, and that's one of them that I think. That's just my opinion. So I'm asking you to think of everybody here. This is about Fairway Village and all of us. It's not about you. It's about us. So make a decision that makes sense for all of us. And that's just about all I got to say.
Can I
Thank
answer?
you very much.
Can I address that? We are thinking about everyone. We're talking about all the association. How many of the people, okay, I saw golfers out there because Christmas was free, they were out there playing.
Yeah, one day.
One day, that's right.
Would have been 15
We
days.
have refused a number of people refunds or transfers of funds. How many of the people this year had 2020 memberships?
I don't know. I don't care.
So you're not losing a dime. All we're asking you to do is pay.
Right here that we've lost $50,000 because these people aren't buying memberships and they're not paying for $12 a head. We didn't lose that much money. We lost a lot of money because those people aren't playing.
I mean, they're never going to play there again?
Some of them won't. Some of them told me they won't.
They will instead go outside the park and pay $20 to $35 to play in spite of paying $12 to help support the association.
Yeah, that's right. They will play 18 holes, get a cart, and go play on a nice course.
And that's their option.
$30.
That's their option.
That is their option, but they shouldn't have to do that. No, they don't have to, but they will now because of the decisions that were made. Now on the lighter side, do you know why those motors hum over there? It's because they don't know the words. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Any other discussion from the shareholders? Go ahead, Dorothy.
Dorothy Woodruff,
unit number 235. And I would just like to express my deep sadness at the vote that was taken in December at this board and the insult I felt as a snowbird. I was ordered home, so I enjoyed 2.5 months of golf. We were not able to return because the border was closed. We could have flown, yes, but we were afraid to with the COVID numbers. We were afraid to again in January of 2021 because of the numbers and because of some of the limitations that your governor has put on Florida residents. So we were not able to, we were able to play golf for 2.5 months. We paid for the year. We as snowbirds know we're going to come in the winter and the fall. We turn around, we can't come in 2021, so we come down in November at a great expense to us to come down. Scared? Yes, definitely with COVID. And then we turn around and you slap us right in the face. You won't give us 2 weeks of free golf? I don't understand that. I'm terribly sorry. We lost the whole year before, and no, we couldn't buy a membership in 2020 because we didn't get here till November 1st. And I'm not paying you $722 for 2 months of golf. I don't understand the rationale as a sitting board of directors that you didn't have the goodwill to offer not just Canadians, but the northern people that live in your country that went home in a hurry and obviously didn't come back last fall. I think it was a really a slap in the face. And I'm very disappointed in the board to have made that decision. That's all.
Dad, I just like, and we've talked about this. My point before was still the same. When we brought that up, the motion was brought up, and the motion is pretty plain and simple, and you don't have much wiggle room there. The rationale came out, and the rationale was kind of vanilla. It just stated a little bit about it. And then we had discussion, and 2 of the board members got up and vehemently voted against the motion, were very adamant about it. And this discussion is very important. And not one Canadian got up. If somebody would have stood up and said what you said right now, I can say this, I'm quite sure it would have changed my vote. But nobody stood up. One person who was not a Canadian kind of stood up and said a little bit. But that kind of passion right there, and individual. This is not so much for this. I'm bringing this up because whenever you're out there and we ask somebody if there's anybody who wants to discuss the motion, please step up if you have your own personal input to put in, if you have added facts that we're not talking about. That's the time to do it. You can really affect a motion. And that's what we were missing on this last vote. And I understand where you're coming from. But if somebody would have spoke up.
You had that motion in front of you for a day or two.
Right.
And you could have looked into the matter. And obviously 1 or 2 of the board of directors swayed the vote completely.
But none of the residents did. None of the residents did. Nobody stood up and gave us. Dick was the only one that stood up, but he's not a Canadian.
I was sick at home in bed.
Well, there was a lot.
That doesn't excuse that I wasn't here to speak, but I really took the vote as a slap in the face.
And I understand where you're coming from. I just wish you or anybody could have gotten up and given their own personal, what happened to them, when they had to go home, why they missed it. And we missed all that,
And we literally had to go home.
Right, right. Well, again, it's a learning experience for future. When you know something, when we're talking about a motion, and you have your own personal input or facts, please stand up and talk to us about it.
That doesn't answer my question of the goodwill towards the community. I mean, Tom said it. It's the goodwill towards the us, not you. It affected me, yes. I'm not paying over $1,000 for a 2-month membership. And now I'm at the point where we're deciding whether we even take one in January. And my husband has golfed since he was 14 years of age. Are we going to get ordered home again in March and not be able to come back again? We don't know that. And it could very well happen in Canada right now. We're waiting for them to close the border at any moment. So that's it.
Thanks for your input, Don. I appreciate it.
Ron Chisholm, Lot 30, and objections to your vote and whatnot. John, if you might recall, I think I wrote to you probably about 3 times last fall, and I outlined everything that has been brought forward. Okay, so I figured that wouldn't do me any good to stand up and discuss it, because I sort of got a flat no. You did come through and offer a one-time $75 reduction on the full membership. Okay, I was going to be here for 6 weeks, but then I had to cancel going home for Christmas because of what's happening. So I was very, very disappointed, and I was extremely disappointed in Steve Ford when you stood up and more or less implied that your reason for not giving the vote to allow us to start playing on December 15th is that we would give our tags to somebody else, and then they would be cheating the system. I take that as an insult, okay? That's not in my DNA, and it will never ever be, okay? And there's no way we would have been able to give our tags to somebody else, because we all have yellow tags. We don't have blue, okay? I was very disappointed, and I'm also disappointed with Tom and his noise. I'm across the street, and on occasion, on my driveway, I can also hear the things going. So the noise is definitely there, and something should be done for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Nancy Whitford, Lot 72. I as well am 3 houses away from Tom's house, and I too hear the noise, not inside but outside for sure. It is loud, and I will tell you, Director Ford and the Board of Directors, the cement wall does work. I would recommend you get that ordered immediately, and I recommend that you use whatever fence went up for something else, like wherever else you might need some fence, because something has to get done. It is super loud. Those air conditioning units have been in now for a long time, complained for a long time. 3 months is too long of a time, and it's soon going to be where they're going to be coming on all day because it's going to be hot. And you got to fix it, guys. Whether it was right or wrong to put them on the roof or not, they're on the ground now, and they're too loud. So we got to get a cement wall up, because that will make a huge difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Any other discussion? Thank you all for being here, and I appreciate your input.